So yes, Shalini, please start.
Okay, all right. A very good evening to you all. Just a little bit of an introduction about myself. I am a commerce graduate in BCom Honors from Hindu College, Delhi University, and also a chartered accountant with over 23 years of post qualification experience. And I have worked in various Fortune 500 companies like Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, American Express, Genpact, and Pricewaterhouse. My last stint, as I was mentioning, was with the Bank of America as Vice President, Finance and Digital Transformation. And as they say that it's never too late to try something new. I have recently started my own CA practice and launched my CA firm, Gupta Shalini and Associates, GSA India, in October 25. And with a global corporate expertise of over 2 decades and an entrepreneurial vision by my side, my firm offers integrated services across strategic finance, business consulting, process reengineering, and transformation with specialized expertise in GCC and GBS advisory, apart from audit and taxation. That is a little introduction about me. It is a great opportunity for me to be here today as a moderator and take this session forward. And I would like to welcome you all the participants and our speaker of the day, we CA Rohit Vasvani. Uh, Before we start with the session, as you might be aware, that GWCAA, which is the Gurugram Women's Chartered Accountants Association, Unnati Manch, it conducts online knowledge sharing series, and this current ongoing GST refresher workshop adds another feather in this cap. Today's topic is time and place of supply. And before introducing our speaker of the day, I would like to, ask CA Asha Sharma. She's a fellow member of ICAI, having 14 plus years of experience. She's also a co-founder and secretary of GWCAA and an executive member of Sales Tax Bar Association Delhi. So I would like her to share a few words. Over to you, Asha.
Thank you, Shalini. And as we said, it's the fourth day of the 7 days learning series. For that, a very warm good evening to everyone. And friends, our past few sessions जो भी conduct किए हमने series में, that covers the most essential pillars, not the utmost, but the most essential pillars like the registration, RCM, and the input tax credit and returns and all. सभी में कुछ ना कुछ वैल्यू एडिशन आई एम श्योर कि सबकी हुई होगी यहाँ पर. एंड आज एक अनदर मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट टॉपिक इन द जीएसटी दैट इज टाइम एंड प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई. कि आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लिया, आपको ये भी पता है कि कुछ आपने सेल किया है, कुछ आपके इनवॉइसेज आ रहे हैं, सब कुछ हो रहा है, बट क्या टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई मानी जाती है, कब कितने टाइम में आपको बिलिंग कर देनी होती है, क्या प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई रहेगा, सो दैट कि व्हाट टाइप ऑफ जीएसटी यू नीड टू चार्ज, क्या आपको अप्लाई करना है, दैट ऑल वी विल लर्न इन टुडेज सेशन. तो यू कैन से दैट इट इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द फाउंडेशन ऑफ द जीएसटी taxability and its jurisdiction जो कि every GST practitioner should know so that they can guide their client very well. And we have the privilege कि we have with us CA Rohit Vasvani sir, बहुत ही learned and eminent expert. Sir, thank you so much that you have given your precious time to us. And आपकी guidance हमें मिलेगी. Definitely we are going to learn more and more things. So with this, now again over to you, Shalini, for the brief intro of sir and to start the session.
Yeah.
Please, Shalini.
Thank you, Asha. And I would now introduce our speaker of the day, CA Rohit Vaswani. He's a practicing chartered accountant, cost and management accountant, a commerce graduate, and also a master's in law from Kurukshetra University. He holds a post qualification diploma in information system audit, DISA, from ICAI. He has been Vice President of Sales Tax Bar Association Delhi and has also served as Member Executive Committee. He has been past president and presently member advisory board of BVSS, which is Bhartiya Vitta Salahkar Samiti, a group of finance professionals who work for the betterment of the profession and the nation. He possesses around 25 years of experience of handling matters related to indirect taxes, corporate taxation, and he's a partner in Messrs. Raj Keshri and Company, Chartered Accountants, since 1998. He has worked in areas like direct and indirect taxes, GST implementation, consultancy, handling search and seizure investigations, appeals, advance rulings, etc. And he also renders lectures in various study circles and other faculties. He's also a qualified mediator under Delhi Dispute Resolution Society, Government of NCT of Delhi. And he also works as a mediator with Telecom Dispute Settlement and Appellate Tribunal. He has been a member of various committees, including Special Invitee Member of Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI, and is also a member of Sales Tax Bar Association, Delhi, since about 20 years. With that, I would now invite Rohit to start his deliberation, and happy learning to all.
Thank you. Thank you, Shalini Gupta ji and Asha Sharma ji, who approached me for some discussion deliberation on the GST core issue, which is the time and place of supply. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the whole team of the Gurugram Women's CA Association for taking this novel initiative. And now, as the number of women in CA profession is growing day by day, and I don't have the data, but now almost equal footing, the women's are participating in profession also. So it's a good initiative, and thanks to you for giving me this opportunity to interact, because GST is in core of my heart. So I just discuss and issues as a professional friends, and we gain both from the discussion and learning. So with this background, let me share with you that while discussing the topic, the Asha ji has allowed me to change the date, but I was very surprised that she didn't change my topic. So the reason might be she might be knowing that this is a core topic, the pillars, fundamental pillars, where the
Absolutely, sir.
if you construct a building, the foundation is very important, and this is one of the foundational topics which has been assigned to me, because generally I don't ask for the topics, whatever the structure says, and we go by that. But the topic was same even after the change in the date. So let's make up this background first, that how we are going to discuss the topics. If you see the fundamental five pillars, I will also discuss. So I think Hindi, English, both comfortable, or any exclusive English will work. Asha ji?
Sir, anything is comfortable.
Okay,
Hindi
okay.
English mix
Yeah.
is also good.
It's we are in North India, then there is no issue, but sometimes in other
Although there
areas.
are some registrations from southern India also, but I
Okay.
think Hindi English is comfortable with everyone.
Okay. So, when we discuss the foundational fundamental pillars of the GST law, so first of all, we will discuss five fundamental pillars also. But levy under GST is section 9, and that is read with section 7 interestingly, because section 7 is the terminology or the item which is to be levied, that is the supply. Because this concept of supply has come from GST. Earlier we were having the multiple laws to tax under the indirect tax regime. So in VAT or sales tax, earlier we used to tax the sale, and in excise we used to tax the manufacture. And like in customs, we used to tax the import, and sometimes we tax the export also. Even today, we have some items where the export duty is levied to discourage those items from export of goods. And in service tax, we used to tax the services, and that was defined. Initially, the service tax started with the exhaustive list of services from three services only way back in 1994. And then gradually it moved to the negative list levy. And that negative list levy is, in GST law, it is syncing with the concept of the GST law. So this background, if we discuss the five fundamental pillars of the GST law, so it will be section 7. This is the foremost important pillar based on the which the GST works. And if you see the 8 years of the GST, so prior COVID, there was so much of the confusion whether it will be covered under supply or not, whether anything can be supply or everything can be supply, because the definition of supply, section 7 is, and actually it was so wide that there was no escape from it. So even, sometimes the question comes, if you have a flat residential house owned by you and you have given it on rent, and you are earning the rent from the residential house. Sometimes question comes whether it is a supply or not. What is the ambit of the supply? Another example is that you are going to a jeweler and you are selling your personal jewelry for some amount of money, or maybe in exchange of another jewelry also. So whether this sale of jewelry is supply or not, whether in daily, many of the items we sell, whether it will be covered under supply or not. Post COVID, there were a lot of, clarifications, and they came out that everything and anything cannot be a supply unless otherwise the ingredients of the supply are there. And they also schedule 2, they amended the mandate of the schedule 2 also, that schedule 2 is applicable only when it is hit by the definition of the supply. It is not like that the schedule 2 is defining the supply in itself. It is just in brief I am telling you, because post COVID we have two times. One era was the clarification relating to supplies. Another era, second round, was relating to the clarification on input tax credits. Then section 9 comes. So section 9 is always read with section 7. If something is not supply, the levy cannot succeed because section 9 fails. And itself, section 9 subsection 2 says that petroleum products, even if it is supply, it is covered under section 7, but it may be under GST to a future date which may be notified. So it means if you see, the legislature choose not to levy on petroleum products although supply, but section 9 talks about the supply only. Then the fundamental pillar comes the time of supply. So what this sequence is chronological. This is, concept we need to understand this sequence to, understand the whole schema of the GST law, whole schema. In central excise, the concept of self-assessment was started, and it was started from moderate after 1986 when the modified value-added tax came. Why I am discussing this issues reason thereby, as it has been told to me that we are not in a hurry to go to the advanced level of litigative points. We are not in a hurry to give something which covers everything. So we are here to have the critical understanding and the analytical understanding of the basic provisions of the law, that how law works. So this, when the self-assessment started, then there was a concept of defacing of the invoices. And the moderate was allowed by the excise authorities, excise official, where the original copy of the invoice, that was the duplicate copy which was supposed to be submitted to the authorities, and based on the original copy of the invoice, they used to allow the moderate. Why I am telling you? Because the concept of self-assessment gained a lot. After ModVet, we came out with the SenVet, and then SenVet was also modified in VAT. after sales tax in VAT, the concept of self-assessment was there, and it is there in GST by way of Section 59. And by way of Section 41 also, the self-assessment concept is not only limited to the charge of the GST, meaning thereby charge means the output tax liability of the GST, but the self-assessment goes beyond the charge. It is applicable on self assessment of input tax credit eligibility also. And that is by way of Section 41 of the CGST Act. Now, when you say the Section 59 is the self-assessment, then this schema becomes more important because now the supplier himself, themselves are required to assess the tax liability. And if you see the component of the assessment of tax liability, this sequence will come. First of all, whether it is a supply or not. If it is a supply, whether levy charge succeeds or not. Like if petroleum product, the charge is not there. If charge is there, the next question will come, and very pertinent question, when to pay the tax? When to pay the tax? There are so many, examples where we can be confused that when the tax should be paid. Suppose any goods has been sent on job work, at the time of sending the goods, at the time of processing the goods, or at the time of delivery of the goods, or at the time of receipt of the goods, there may be n number of events where we can argue, and like in construction contracts also we can argue when to levy the tax. And this when question is very important for self-assessment. Why? This is very important. And why it is important? Because the self-assessment uh, is by way of return in GSTR 3B. When you file your return, first GSTR 1, then GSTR 3B, and then you self-assess, the question arises on what invoice, on what amount you will pay the tax in a particular month. Like in financial records, we follow the matching concept, and matching concept that a transaction related to a particular year is to be recorded in a financial statement. Now, when the year is defined, then you follow the matching concept. Here also, when the tax period is defined, then you will match all the transactions related to that tax period. And that is the time of supply. You will be identifying the transaction. Suppose the tax period is month. So then in the particular month, what transactions is supposed to covered under GST, it will be decided by the time of supply. Suppose the tax period is quarter. Suppose the tax period is year, maybe for hypothetical, is a year. Then based on that, period, and based on the law, fundamental law, it will be decided what transactions are going to be covered in the particular month in GST or 3B, where or the levy will be there. And in the same manner, the place of supply question comes. Now, these two are totally independent issues, or actually all are independent issues but connected to each other. Why connected? This self-assessment will not be succeeding unless you know all this schema. How you will raise an invoice without knowing the levy, without knowing the supply, because levy includes exemption also. Levy includes section 11 also. And unless you know the time of supply, you will not be able to include the transaction in a particular month. Unless you know the place of supply, you won't be knowing whether it is a IGST or CGST or SGST. Then how you will raise the invoice? And unless you know the value cannot be put in the invoice. Unless the valuation is put and classification is being checked, you cannot determine your tax liability. So out of these fundamental issues, we are taking up two issues. Time of supply, the question is when. The place of supply, the question is where. Why where? The reason is that unless you determine the where, you cannot charge a appropriate tax there. And this where question is very pertinent so far as the federal structure of our country, India, is concerned. We will discuss why this where. Because if I remove this where from these five elements, the GST will not remain a destination-based consumption tax. Ajaji, you can interact also if or let me finish whatever way you like. I am comfortable. If once the we are going to the sections, you can interact in between also whenever you like.
Sure, sir. Sure.
हाँ, तो where question is very pertinent so far as our country's structure is concerned. Why, what is the structure? Structure is that there is a sovereign rights of the states and we have a federal structure. When the state is a sovereign, although it is a part of the Union of India, but sovereign means for what? When we call that in particular or the states are sovereign, what does it mean? The meaning is that they have their own administration, and for our purpose, they have their own fund, own budget. That is the sovereignty. There is a state fund. The money will go to that state fund, and state is empowered to allocate budget from that money, and state is empowered to make the expenditure from that money, and that's why the state is empowered to collect the taxes, and that is under indirect taxes. And by way of the new constitutional article 101, there is a cross power or joint jurisdiction or combined jurisdiction to collect the taxes, and we have the state act separately, but that is perimetry with the central. So this place of supply is making the GST law destination-based consumption tax. And valuation, I will not much dwell upon at today's time, but it is also a lot of provision, plethora of disputes, and how you value. There are rules, and there are judicial pronouncement where the we have a legacy of the laws where this is discussed. Now coming the core concept which already I have discussed. To determine the taxability, we must also answer two fundamental questions. And what are that questions? If we fail at either, the entire tax payment is under stake. Because if the levy do not give you the answer when, the court will say it is a incomplete levy and it will fail. Even if the machinery is not there, the levy fails. Every answer has to be given by the legislature in the levy itself. Then what the question is? TOS. In short, we call TOS. The point of time when the liability to pay tax arises. This is the POS. And what is the impact of non-compliance? There might be interest liability. There are issue of cash flow management. I give you example. You will understand what the important part is that. Suppose you are providing a service, and in service, even before provision of the service, we can raise the invoice. The section 31 talks about the day that I raise an invoice for 1 crore rupees plus GST in this month. Today is in the month of December. And say in the month of January, the inward supply related to that service which I have provided comes in the month of January. Now, what is happening? My outward supply, I have raised the invoice in the month of December, but my related inward supply, whatever it may be, that supplier has raised me the invoice in the month of January. Maybe there are peculiar situations when the time of supply may differ. Now, what is happening? In December, I have to pay the tax in cash. But in January, I will be having the excess ITC. What will I do of that ITC? Suppose it is a single time entry, or the rarely once in a year or twice in a year it happens. So now you can understand what important the cash flow management is related to TOS. This is only a teaser because we must understand the law and we must understand the situation where these types of issues may crop up. Then we have the place of supply. What is the jurisdiction, destination? Actually, jurisdiction will not be a most appropriate word in the GST era. Reason thereby jurisdiction we generally call of the supplier, where supplier is located. the location, the concept of PE is important. The concept of PE is there in GST. The concept of PE has been defined in for the services specifically, but for goods it is not defined specifically, but there is a concept. So that is the jurisdiction, but destination, what we want to say, the where the supply has been consumed is the destination, and that particular state will be eligible to get the revenue in its state fund. Like in Union, we earlier used to call the Consolidated Fund of India, CFI. Now we call it as a Bharat Kosh. The fund is known as Bharat Kosh. That is the Consolidated Fund of India by way of constitution. Then, if particular state, say Delhi, has a Delhi own fund, that will be the destination. I give you example, and you will understand. You know, Daman is a area we all may be aware. It's a very small area. It's I think UT Union Territory. Goa earlier used to be Goa, Daman, and Diu. Daman is UT, and there is a schemes there for exemption and all that. Suppose there are a lot of manufacturing units, and they are making the FMCG goods there, and lot of manufacturing is there. But the all the goods manufactured in Daman is brought to Delhi. है ना? Brought to Delhi. Maybe from Delhi it goes outside, but we are taking a simple example, brought to Delhi. Now the question comes, the manufacturing process has been there in the Daman, and the whole of the goods is being sold to the Delhi jurisdiction. Now, which government will take the revenue of GST? This is very important. If you ask me, the registration will be done by the Daman authorities. The tax will be collected by the Daman authorities. You know, this is what a cooperative federalism. I give you, if you understand, the whole lot of state government employees are working for the whole country, not for their own state. The whole is, field formations, the tax formations are not working for their own state. They are working for other. Now the whole machinery of the Daman, all Daman officers are working there collecting tax, but not a single penny will go to the Daman government. Reason why? Because all the goods has been transferred to Delhi. Daman is a small, might be 1%, that also hardly keeps the goods, that only that part of the revenue will go. The whole machinery of the Daman is involved, but the destination place of supply of that goods is coming to Delhi. And you know the golden rule in GST. We are discussing many rules, fundamental rules that we need to discuss. The tax moves along with the goods. The tax moves along with the goods. This is the concept in GST. Wherever the goods will go, tax will move along with that. But where it is consumed means that now the goods loses its identity. It's consumed, it's subsumed. Then the tax. If you use a toothpaste at your home, open your toothpaste, then the tax goes to the Delhi government or the Haryana government where you are residing. So once the goods is consumed, that then only the revenue is recognized by the government, and that is why there is a lot of issues in distribution of the IGST. A lot of circular has been issued. Clarification has been issued for filing of GSTR 3B to correctly reflect the B2C supply destination, because you are paying tax under B2C, but if you are not telling to which state you have sold the goods, the correct state will not take the credit. Reason being, in GSTR 3B, if you see, in B2C supply specifically, there are two separate tables. Both are independent. You can pay tax 1 crore, but you have also to tell this 1 crore tax is related to which of the states you have sold the goods. So this is the importance of place of supply. Now, coming to the time of supply. So one more important part, when you see the GST, it is told it is a one nation, one tax, no doubt about it. One single tax for goods and services, no doubt about it. There is single law. But in section 7, it talks about supply, and goods and services both are covered. In levy, section 9, it talks about goods and services both together. It is levied. But after 9, 10 is a special composition. Once we come to the exemption section 11, from section 11, the GST again bifurcates into two parts. In the whole schema, you will see the separate provision for the goods and separate provision for services. Why exemption notification? 12 oblique 2017 is related to services, and now 10 oblique 2025 is related to the exemption of goods. And likewise, the time of supply for goods is section 12 and for services is section 13. So from that point of time, even if it is a single levy, it is a single law, GST is for goods and services, but after charging section, you will find the separate provisions, separate rules, separate valuation rules, and in many places, separate notifications so far the levy of goods and services is concerned. Because both have their unique characters. You can understand. Both have their unique character. Now we are coming to this, goods, section 12. What the section 12 says, now the question is very clear to us. I am sure that the question is when. We are at when, where we will discuss later on. So section 12 says when. It's a general rule is there that forward charge, because for reverse charge, there is subsection separate. For forward charge, there is subsection. Ajay, now, when we are discussing this when, for whom we are discussing? For supplier or for recipient? For whom we are discussing? When we are discussing forward charge, we are discussing for the supplier. When we are discussing the reverse charge, we are discussing for the recipient, because the levy is on the recipient. That's why we have to change our mind immediately. The general rule is that earlier, what happens when the GST law came, the advance also becomes taxable, and it was taxable under services tax. In excise, there was no question of advance. In excise, they say once you manufacture the goods, you have to pay the excise duty. Whether you receive the amount or do not receive the amount, we are least bothered. In VAT, there was a concept of sale. Sale means transfer of goods from chattel to chattel, from one person to another against a consideration. So that was a levy. Now in GST, when the section 12 came, it was advance was also taxable in case of goods. But later on, they issued a notification, which I have referred here, 15th November 2017, and they relaxed the provision of time of supply. By way of this order, this notification, they relaxed. Now, what do they say? The date of issue of invoice or last day on which invoice ought to have been issued, whichever is earlier will be the time when the levy will be there. So this is what general rule section 12 is talking about related to goods. Once we go further, you will more appreciate the provisions. And I am doing at my pace. Whatever syllabus is covered, you take it here, because everything cannot be covered. Otherwise, we have to rush, and that I don't want. है ना?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, so don't go for the part that this should be covered, because we are professionals. We are not a student that we are going to cover a syllabus here. है ना? So we will do it comfortably. Now, there are critical issues also that I will discuss. But general concept I given you, that advance earlier, which was taxable for calculation of time of supply, now not. Now, what the section says, goods, and this already covered. This is the section verbatim. Now, the section says the time of supply of goods shall be earlier of the following dates: the date of issue of invoice by the supplier or last date on which he is required under section 31 to issue the invoice with respect to supplier. So this is what we are discussing. Now the B part we are ignoring, because this B, the date on which the supplier received the payment, has been relaxed. And there is a small proviso. This is for 1000 rupees, and we will not discuss it much, but if there is any query, we will certainly take up. Now what does it mean? It means that standalone section 12 will not work. You have to go to 31, unless you know the time for issuing of the invoice, you will not be knowing the time of supply. So now you need to know what is the last date for issue of invoice. And then you will compare it from the date of issue of the invoice. Then only you will be able to find out the time of supply. Then we come to the RCM. We will go to section 31 also, but let's discuss the RCM also. Now, subsection 3 of the 12 talks about the time of supply when the RCM will be paid. By whom? By the recipient. It says, in case of supply in respect of which the tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge. How you will know that this particular goods is under reverse charge? There is notification for reverse charge on goods like raw cashew, cotton from agriculturist. If you buy, there is a reverse charge. We are talking about goods because generally we are familiar with the services. Reason thereby, if services were taxed under RCM in service tax also. But goods, now it is under RCM. There are many goods which are under RCM. I have given you example. The time of supply shall be the earliest of the following. Number A, the date on the receipt of goods or the date of payment as entered in the books of account. Read that only. And the date immediately following the 30 days from the date of issue of invoice or any other document by whatever name called in lieu thereof by the supplier. Because supplier may be the unregistered, that's why they have used any other document. Because invoice meaning tax invoice under the GST law. It is defined there that invoice include tax invoice. So that's why now when we come to this, you see, I want to highlight one particular entry. The B part, the date of payment as entered in the books of account. Now I give you example. The date of payment is 1st of January 2025, suppose. And then date of receipt of goods is 1st of February. And then invoice is say 1st of March 2025. All three first dates. Now what does it mean? The date immediately following the 30 days from the date of issue of invoice or any other document, we will see earlier. Now if you see 1st of January is the date of payment, it means the advance payment has been made. Because the payment has been made on 1st of January, goods has been received on 1st of February, and the date immediately 30 days from the issue of invoice say is 1st of March. Now, in this case, the advance is taxed. Earlier in forward charge, we have told you that advance is relaxed. But if you are a recipient, you are making the advance payment for cotton from agriculturalists, the RCM comes into the picture immediately in the month of making the advance payment. So that is what I wanted to differentiate between the forward charge TOS and the RCM TOS. So this we have to see. And then it says when it is not possible to determine, this is a residuary clause, need not to be much dwell right now. But subsection 6 says the time of supply to the extent it relates to an addition in the value of supply by way of interest, late fee, or penalty for delayed payment of any consideration shall be the date on which the supplier receives such addition in value. I give you example. Suppose there is a forward charge invoice and invoice has been raised in the month of December. And time of supply says if it is has been raised as per section 31 within time, then the time of supply will fall in the month of December. Okay. Now the payment of that invoice has been made late by the recipient. Suppose the terms of contract was for 10 days and the payment has been received after 60 days. Then the supplier raises an invoice for the interest. Now the question is, there are two questions actually, whether this interest is taxable or not, that is not our syllabus, but we are just discussing. And second, when is the TOS for the interest invoice? TOS means when the supplier is liable to pay tax on that part. Now, for interest part, they have said simply the TOAS is the receipt of consideration on which the supplier receives such additional value. Nothing doing with the invoice, nothing doing with the due date, 30 days or whatever. Simply, when the interest is received in that particular month, you will reflect that in your GST or 3B and pay the tax accordingly. Now, I am saying there is a tax on interest. Is it correct? Is it correct? Because it is saying that the tax will be levied in the month when it is received. It is correct reason thereby this interest is a composite supply, part of that supply only. Only it is not a simpliciter interest on deposits or advances or which you have received on your fixed deposits or security deposits or like anything. This is part of the supply only. It is a part of supply. It will become part of the composite supply, but the tax will be paid in the month when you have received the interest.
So this
This is
interest is like which we are receiving on a delay receipt of payment from the customers. Like,
yes,
okay.
that is the interest. So this is about the goods. Now see the section 31, what it says that when you are required to issue the invoice and that in case of goods. Let's see, because once you read the section 12, you have to read it with section 31 because it says within when due date when is required under section 31. What is the due date? A registered person supply taxable goods shall before or at the time of removal of goods for supply to the recipient where the supply involves movement of goods or delivery of goods or making available thereof to the recipient in any other case. Issue a tax invoice showing the description, quantity, value, the tax charge thereon, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. And this issuance of invoice is the part of self-assessment schema. This you need to understand because invoice cannot be raised actually unless you know this whole schema. Everything is there in invoice only. The classification HSN is also there, invoice value is also invoice, time of supply is also there, 31 is also there, place of supply is also there, charging is also there, exemption is also there, everything is in invoice. Now, if you see, let me deliberate on this. In case of goods, when removal of goods, when the supply involves movement, so can there be a supply where there is no movement? Can you give me the example when there is no movement but there is a supply? है ना? तो yeah, there can be many instances where there is no movement. Suppose the goods is lying with the customer itself because earlier it was on lease or hire or on rental, but now it is being sold to that person only. So in that case there is no movement of the goods involved, and when there is no movement of the goods, when making it available, so it is there already, and when the transfer title is letter is given that this goods is being transferred to you on the same day, you will raise the invoice. That is the time limit for issuing the invoice. But when the movement is there, now it question comes, it says before or at the time. मतलब it cannot be after movement of the goods. This is very important. Goods के साथ invoice होना ही चाहिए. You cannot generate a invoice once the movement has already been started. If there is, in between detention, then you will be violating the law even for the issuance of the invoice. Now the question comes, how many months, days before you can raise the invoice? There is no such, time limit given in the law. It simply says before or at the time. So before must be understood reasonably that you can raise invoice 1 day before or 2 day before. There is no denial of that. Before that you can raise. And further, it says in case of continuous supply of goods. What is continuous supply of goods? That is has been defined. You can see it when where the successive statement of accounts or successive payments are involved. Now you have the PNG supply, piped natural gas, and a gas is goods. It's continuously coming to your house. So it's a continuous supply of goods. What it says, where successive statements or uh, accounts or successive payments are involved, the invoice will be issued before or at the time each such statement is issued, or as the case may be, each such payment is received. Suppose PNG, the IGL, Indraprastha Gas Limited says that we will issue invoice monthly. So whenever such statement is issued, that is the time of supply. In that particular month, the IGL has to pay the tax on that particular supply. So that is related to continuous supply. And one concept is related to the goods sent on approval basis. What is goods sent on approval basis? There is a concept that suppose designers are there, many designers are there, many agriculturalists are there who put their goods on a particular showroom or place where if it is, and artists also, the big artists, they make the paintings, they generally keep it in the gallery. And if it is sold, then only it will be treated as sale. So for that, separate subsection 7 is there, and that says when the goods has been sent on approval basis or return are removed before the supply takes place, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply or 6 months from the date of removal, whichever is earlier. It means they have fixed a maximum time limit of 6 months for raising the invoice. If it is lying for more than 6 months, then you have to raise the invoice at the last day when the period of 6 months is ending. So that is a special provision. So now this is relating to the goods, section 31. We read section 12, TOS. We read for RCM as well as forward charge. We read because that is first, our forward charge was based on 31 invoice. So we read 31 also. And now we can correlate the 31 with the 12 also. Now
Sir,
coming to the,
there
yes.
is one query regarding time of supply for RCM cases, RCM inward supply, where it is received from the, let's say, this registered person. For example, transportation के case में what we are seeing कि that the bills generated by the transporter, registered transporter, is reflected in the recipient GSTR 2B. But in many cases, they have not even received the goods by that time or not even received the invoices by that time. So in that case, what should be done by the recipient? Whether to deposit the GST as per the 2B, or
Actually,
what
your
should be done?
question is related to services. We are coming to the services,
Okay.
but because I know whenever RCM come, the question come for the transporter only and import of service or services only. But what we have already discussed is related to goods,
So good,
and
only.
there it was also clearly mentioned that 30 days after the issuance of invoice. So that is
Okay.
also, if the invoice has been issued by the supplier and 30 days has exceeded, then on 31st day you are liable to pay RCM. That is the earliest.
Right.
I given you the example, but I given
Yes.
you for advance payment. Reason being,
Hmm.
the advance payment is not taxable in forward charge. But if you make advance payment in RCM related
Then
goods,
it is
you are
getting
liable
taxed.
for RCM. So
And
that's why that point might have been missed,
yes.
highlighted. But this transporter issue we will see now in
Okay.
services.
And just to continue with the services thing, there is one more question in the
नहीं,
chat box.
services शालिनी, let it be
Hmm.
complete first कि
Okay.
अभी services का सर करेंगे तो then we
Yeah.
will take it up,
There
right?
was a question. Yeah. We'll
हाँ.
take it then
Okay.
after.
Yes. Now, what the crux of section 13 is, we are discussing in this slide. What is the cash flow impact? The impact is that in services, the advance is taxable. It has not been relaxed. Only in case of goods, the advance has been relaxed. And in GST, the works contract are deemed to be the services. So in construction related contract, whenever there is a advance payment that is taxable under the GST in the month when you receive the advance. No, there is a mismatch also. For the supplier, the advance is taxable. But for the recipient, he cannot claim ITC on advance payment. This is the mismatch. Because both are separate, independent. In earlier VAT, what used to happen, the net tax liability concept was there. Here is no net tax liability concept. Here is the liability is charging section is on the output tax liability gross is the whole liability. But that you have the two methods for discharging your gross liability. One is from cash ledger, another is from credit ledger. That is your choice. You can alter also. The 3B allows earlier it was because there is a lot of reforms, amendments in forms and from GST from implementation. But if you want to pay in cash, do not want to utilize your ITC, it's your choice. Now, if you see this section 13 says, if invoice is issued within 30 days of service, TOS is invoice date or payment date, whichever is earlier. Why we are saying 30 days? We are saying because it is issued within the time allowed. And time allowed is 30 days under rules. And if it is not issued 30 days, the TOS is the provision of service or payment date, whichever is earlier. So there are two scenarios we will see in 13 verbatim also. And there are issues related to RCM also. I am aware there are issues related to excess payment received. Just see this section 13 related to services and you will appreciate the law. What it says, the time of supply of services shall be the earliest of the following date. There are A, B, C, three part. A says the date of issue of invoice by the supplier if invoice is issued within the prescribed under section 31 and read with rules. है ना? तो time prescribed in case of services is 30 days from the provision of service. Okay. So if the invoice is issued within 30 days, A clause will be applicable. If invoice is not issued within 30 days, B clause will be applicable. And the C, the date on which the recipient showed the receipt of services in his books, that is a residuary case. When the recipient has shows as a receipt of services, then the supplier will be bound, compelled to pay the GST. But in A scenario also or B scenario also, which are the main scenario, you will compare the invoice with the receipt of payment also because earlier is there. Here advance is taxed. Advance is taxed. And this is 1000 relaxation is there and some definitions are there. This is what is the forward charge. Now see the reverse charge. This transporter case will come here. Now see. Here also the same analogy, which was in the goods, there was relaxation in case of forward charge, but here there is no relaxation. It says in case of supply in respect of which tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge. Now it is in the hands of recipient. Notification. You have to see the whole lot of list 13 oblique 2017 define 4 oblique 2017 goods notified. What's it? The date of payment as entered in the books of account. B, the date immediately following 60 days. There it was 30 days in goods, but it is 60 days from the date of issue of invoice or any other document by whatever name called. And C, the date of issue of invoice by the recipient in case where invoice is to be issued by the recipient. It means when the supplier is unregistered, the C will come into the picture. When the supplier is registered, the B will come into the picture. And A will always be there when the payment has been received. Now, earliest of this, you asked me a question of transporter. Now I am analyzing that part. The transporter has issued the invoice, but you have not booked in your books of account or what. If you see the B, the day immediately following 60 days means 61st day, you are liable to pay RCM. Even if you have not made the payment, even if you have not might not have been received the services, but it is simply saying you if you see the B and if B becomes the earliest, you becomes liable to pay RCM. So this is the question I think it was asked with me, but otherwise
Yes.
also this the date of payment as entered. It means if the payment is advance, then you are liable to pay RCM from advance. If invoice is issued, you are liable to pay 61st day of the issue. If invoice is self-issued, then on the day of issue, you will pay RCM because the supplier is unregistered. Okay. Now, provided that we are not possible to do, well, that is the general clause, and we are coming to the last subsection 6. Same way, addition in the value of supply by way of interest. The same concept when the supplier receives the interest or late fee or penalty for delayed in payment, in the month of receipt, the TOS will arise. Now, we will see section 31, and that is related to issuance of invoice in case of services.
Just
And
a
it says,
quick time check for everyone. It's 6 p.m., so we have another
And you
30
mean
minutes.
it's
So yeah, session
we
going
can
good.
we can extend
Too
also
many
if
learning.
this
Yes.
if Rohit sir agree to this.
no,
That's not an issue
rather,
to us.
rather than extending, you can keep it any other time because it's starting, you have taken an
Mm.
initiative. And
Yes,
if
sir.
sincere participants you get who are eager to learn the law, who are eager to discuss, a cohesive group will be, developed. And GST is future, let me tell you. If as a chartered accountant or tax consultant, if you are ignoring GST, then you have to be highly specialized in any other area. Otherwise,
And
GST,
right,
without GST, you cannot survive. It's a
right, sir.
future.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you can keep it comfortably. Don't be bother about syllabus at all. This is my submission.
Agree.
Or if you want, I can cover because I have only 10, 11, 12, 13, 4 section of IGST. That's it after that. And that
नहीं
we
सर
can cover in 15 minutes.
नहीं प्रॉपरली जो कर रहे हैं उसको डिटेल में करते चलेंगे.
Yes. Now, this is subsection 2. What says it says a registered person supplying taxable services shall. Here also you will say what you will see before or after the provision of service. There the movement of goods, either provision of, but within a prescribed period. And prescribed period is in rule. Prescribed means under rule 30 days from provision of service. Issue a tax invoice showing the description, value, tax charge thereon, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. And there may be recommendation where these all provisions are there, and 5 is a residuary, and 6 is says in case where the supply of service ceases under a contract before completion. Generally, under a contract, if there is a dispute and supply ceases, the invoice shall be issued at the time when the supply ceases, and such invoice shall be issued to the extent of the supply made before such cessation. Now, it is a disputed case. Suppose the milestone of a contract is coming on 25% of the services rendered, and if the contract has ceased at 20% level, actually, nothing is due because the first milestone was at 25% of the suppose construction or provision of service or whatever type of service it was. But it says the invoice shall be issued at the time when the supply ceases, and such invoice shall be issued to the extent of supply made before such situation. Now you have made 20% supply. They are saying you raise a invoice for 20% supply, but my contract do not allow me to raise before 25% completion. So that's why disputes come in this. But this is regarding the section 31. Now, before we come to the place of supply, if there is any question or confusion relating to the place POS, we can, oh, sorry, TOS, we can ask time of supply.
Sir, in case of this audit work,
Hmm.
where apart from the audit, the ITR filing and ROC filing is also within the scope of the work, but usually due to the other regulations applicable on the CS, different terms of engagement and different scope of engagement letters were prepared. So what should be the timeline for issuing the invoice? Time of supply उसका कब fall करना चाहिए
Yes,
हमारा?
yes. So you have asked a question for a tax professional, chartered accountant, or company secretary, or maybe cost accountant. And by this, we will understand the whole concept also again in a practical manner. Now, the time limit prescribed under Section 31 for issuing the invoice is important because that is basis of Section 13 of TOS. Now, it says before or after the provision of service, but not later than the prescribed period. So before service, you can raise an invoice. But I told you the concern.
Oh.
Although we are going, uh, uh, even before the audit, we can raise a invoice. Even before the filing of income tax return, we can raise an invoice. Even before filing the ROC compliances, we can raise an invoice. But whether the recipient will be eligible to avail the credit or not, that's a separate issue. Generally avails because such minute things do not get highlighted. But what law is, we are discussing the law. Unless otherwise service has been received by the recipient, they are not eligible to claim the input tax credit. Now, suppose you have three works: income tax, ROC, and audit. The audit provision is the date of signing of the audit report. If you are signing the audit report, say on 30th day of September 2025, then within 30 days you are supposed to raise an invoice. The ITR case, the day when you submit the ITR return on a income tax portal, from that day, 30 days is invoice is required. Like manner in the ROC compliance, when you have submitted the compliance in the ROC portal, within 30 days, you are supposed to raise the invoice. This is what law says. But prior to that, you can raise. But generally, what happens now, so listen, many of the cases we have completed audit on September, say 30th of September, now this year also. And we are sitting in December, and if we have not raised the invoice for our audit fees, that is a default.
Because the problem arises कि the work is not completed as per the original scope. Like ITR is
No,
not filed. So
no,
in
no.
composite and a consolidated bill is to be raised for the audit, ITR and ROC.
No, you are emphasizing a situation where consolidated bill is to be raised, but
Generally, this is
this
happening
is
with
not
the
allowable
CAs.
under ethics. You have to audit fee is separate, and you have to mention in companies also what is audit fee, what is the other fees, because there is restriction also on
Yes,
charging
that
other fees.
bifurcation is done, but invoice is issued with
Practically,
a single
you are
invoice.
doing it, but law is saying
That should not be done,
yeah, yeah,
ideally.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
For audit part, rest of the
Yes,
services
yes,
you can
yes.
combine.
Okay.
So,
Then, Shalini, one question is there from Prakash ji.
So Prakash is asking in GST R1 provisions to be made for time of supply to ease the business. Invoice management system can be utilized to keep invoices pending to avoid RCM payment related to transporters. I think it's not a question but a
But a
comment on the
suggestion.
discussion. Yeah,
and now we have
that we were
clarified
having.
also on 61st
Yes.
day you are liable. And even in your 2B, that RCM invoice is coming. So you have been highlighted to pay the RCM. If you are not paying, you will be liable for interest. In the first slide, I told you, if you are not complying the TOS provision, the interest liability may be there. Apart from the challenge on claiming the ITC also. In case of registered supplier where RCM is applicable, that get time barred in the 30th November of the next year if you have not made the RCM payment. And then you will be paying, end up with the tax interest without any ITC benefit. So that's why the GSTR 2B is given to you. You check every month whether there is any invoice which is liable for RCM and pay the within 60 days or 61st day you are liable. So, or you can pay earlier also. There is no need to wait for the 61st day. Yes.
Sir, one more
Now,
practical issue
yes.
is coming up. Just one question, sir. In most of the case, many cases, what we are seeing, कि जो big corporates are there, like Maruti or some Reliance kind of big organizations, what they do specifically for the services invoice. Like the supplier has given the invoice, sales invoice, let's say even in the month of like previous year, Feb or March something. They have issued the invoice, but for any reason, like accountant के drawer में था or whatever reason, that is not posted in their SAP, their accounts. So what they asked is to the supplier कि just to cancel those bill and issue us a fresh bill now. एंड उसका अगर क्रेडिट नोट का टाइम है तो क्रेडिट नोट आप इशू कर दीजिए और नहीं है तो दे आर नॉट बॉदर्ड. तो इन एनी ऑफ द केस वेदर क्रेडिट नोट टाइमिंग इज देयर और नॉट, बट बिकॉज टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई तो यहाँ पे ब्रीच हो जाएगा, मेरा एक्चुअल में सप्लाई तो पहले हो गया, वो उस इनवॉइस को कैंसिल करवा दे रहे हैं. तो व्हाट शुड बी डन इन दिस केस?
Yeah, that is what financial indiscipline is. And that is what we say the GST has been imported from Europe, but our businesses are not like Europe. Our way of doing, because Europe is a very small part. We are 140 crore plus population. We are more than 70% MSME. The same law is for MSME. The same law is for big companies like multinational companies and everyone. So this is the dichotomy that these types of indiscipline is there, and there is no solution in the law which is provided. Actually, the TOS has come. What the GST law says simply, when you have provided the service within 30 days, you raise the invoice. You have raised the invoice. If the recipient forget to enter in ERP, if the recipient do not make payment, it become bad debt. You are not relieved. You are liable to pay the tax in the month in which you have raised the invoice. There is no relieving even if you do not receive the payment as bad debts. But this is
Because
happening. Sometimes you raise the credit note, again you raise the invoice, but this is not as per law. Yes.
right, because
There
most of
is
the cases they have paid initially also, but
It happens practically. We do many
practical
things.
problem is there.
Yeah. You see your chartered accountant practice now. Suppose 30th September audit has been completed. In many cases, the invoices are pending. In many cases, invoices has been issued, but there is no payment has been received. And you say, if I show it in R1, I have to pay the tax. Yes, you have to pay the tax, even if you do not receive the payment from client.
Yes, of course.
And the client has not entered in ERP, then what to do? Law is same.
okay. There is one more question. In case of RCM on transportation, which is getting reflected in 2B, if the payment is done within 60 days, will the interest be applicable?
No?
Can the department officers ask for interest saying it's a delay in payment of tax?
No,
No, no,
within
no.
60 days, there is no delay.
No delay.
If
So
you
no
have,
interest will
and
be
delay
applicable.
also, one very interesting fact is that although theoretically we determine the TOS by particular date, because 30 days means days, है ना?
Yes.
60 days we are talking about. But practically, the TOS is month because the minimum tax period is month. I told you the matching
Right.
concept because what we having the privilege that basically we are chartered accountants and we have been brought up by accounting. And this is what the minimum tax period is month. So even if the TOS is on first of the day of the month or last day of the month, you need not to pay any interest for that particular. And further, you are given 20 days time further to make the payment. So it means total, you have the 50 days time to discharge your liability.
Right.
That was not there in excise. In excise, there is a concept of advance payment. PLA has to be deposited in advance. Earlier, then they came out with a 5 days time or 7 days time later on. But earlier, you can remove the goods in excise only when you have a duty in your ledger. So that's not the GST era. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will give you the idea of place of supply, although I have given you the, core concept. If you could have understood what I started with this discussion. And now the further, if you see the schema, it is the IGST. My question first is because if you are interacting, why the IGST Act? The place of supply is nowhere in the CGST Act. It is only in the IGST Act. The first question is, now we have moved to the IGST Act. Why it is in IGST Act? Why not in the CGST Act? This is my question. If
So in the CGST Act, that same state is there, and in IGST, other than that particular state from where goods or services are being supplied.
yes, now the answer is correct, but I give you more details. Actually, in the Constitution itself, the power to make or power to uh, legislate the law of interstate sale has been exclusively given to the central government, union. That's why there is only one single IGST Act. There is no state IGST Act separately. This is the only act where you will find only single act. But all other states have their perimetria as GST Act. One single CGST Act, and then all states and UT have their, Delhi has their Delhi GST Act, which is perimetria to the CGST. But when there is a matter of determining whether this particular tax will go to which state, when the multiple states are involved, no state have power to legislate that law. That's why the IGST Act has been enacted by the union with the recommendation of the GST Council. That recommendations are also limited for the discussion on POS and some more items. And that's why these provisions are only in IGST Act. It is in exclusive domain of the Union of India. No state can define these law. It is in the exclusive domain of the Union of India. And Union of India has exercised the power and legislated this IGST Act 2017. And the sections involved here are the 10, 11 for goods, 12, 13 for services. And there is one new section recently came, 14A. This is for some, special type of actionable claims like online gaming. They have come out, and this section 14 is related to OIDAR that we can discuss anytime. So this is the schema of the IGST Act. Now what we do, this is section 10. Okay, now understand what is the importance of this. First of all, I told you that after charging and after, levy supply, the services and goods have become separate in the GST also. And then we talk about the place of supply provision. This is the law which will determine the place of supply. The place of supply is a legal concept. It has to be determined with the particular section of the law. It is not a concept which is to be decided on logical basis, which is to be decided on, experience basis. It is a law itself. And secondly, once we define the place of supply, basically we are defining the destination of that particular goods or services. And when we are deciding the marked to that particular state. I give you example. Suppose the goods is moving from Delhi to Rajasthan, and if the law says the place of supply is Rajasthan, then at the time of filing GSTR 1 and 3B payment, this particular tax will be marked to the Rajasthan. IGST is 1. Pan India, there is no IGST tax. Let me clarify you. The IGST tax has to be marked with particular state. That's why the IGST tax will come. So the IGST will go to Rajasthan, and Rajasthan, it can move along with the goods or it can be consumed. It's a, escrow account. It's a, clearing system. It's a hodgepodge where the tax keep on moving from one state to another and keep on distribution. This distribution pattern, there is a separate act, is a separate discussion altogether how the revenue is being distributed. But Section 10 says the place of supply related to the goods, which is a domestic transaction only. What it says, the place of supply of goods other than supply of goods imported into or exported from India shall be as under. So very importantly, we need to apply this section only where there is no transaction related to import, there is no transaction related to export, then only this section 10 will be applicable. Then we have the clause A, B, C, CA. These four clauses are there. And each of the clause is very important clause. My submission is that this is only the teaser we are discussing here. We all need to read the law and not once, again and again when the situation arises. Do uh, keep on reading the law again and again. The clause A says where supply involves movement of goods whether by supplier or by recipient or any other person. The place of supply shall be the location of the goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. Terminates to the delivery to the recipient. Now, I give you example. You go to Shimla for traveling for your summer vacation. You go to Shimla, and from Shimla Mall Road, you buy a leather purse, and the shopkeeper gives you an invoice, and he asks you from where you are. You said, I'm from Delhi, and he gives you the invoice writing your name and state Delhi. Now, with this example, let me know where is the place of supply. Very simple question. Where is the place of supply? Because there are a lot of questions. I am not going. We don't have the time to dwell upon much intricacies. But I am giving you very pertinent issues, which has been recently also clarified. Circular has been issued, and they have clarified more than enough. You- What is the place of? There could be only two places of supply, either Himachal Pradesh or Delhi. This you are clear in the transaction which I have given you. You went to Shimla. I can complicate it further also, but you went to Shimla and bought a leather purse from Mall Road, Shimla, and you came to Delhi with the purse. Now, the shopkeeper, for the point of view of shopkeeper, what is the place of supply? You see, it is written whether by the supplier or by the recipient or by any person. So even if you yourself are bringing the goods together with you, the place of supply shall be the location of goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. Now, delivery has been there in Himachal only, but they have clarified the law is clear. They have further amended the law also. है ना? And I read this CA clause. Where the supply of goods is made to a person, you just see, other than a registered person, the place of supply shall, not standing anything contrary contained in clause A or clause C. Just highlight the location as per the address of the said person recorded in the invoice issued in respect of the said supply, and the location of the supplier where the address of the said person is not recorded in the invoice. If your invoice, the location is recorded Delhi, the place of supply shall be the Delhi, even if you are bringing goods yourself, where you are not registered. If you are registered, then you will squarely cover in A. There is no need. It means, I give you another example. In the Shimla, rather than apart from buying, suppose, leather bag, you also bought some, consumables like medicine or food items, and you got it's a packed items. It's not restaurant service I'm not talking about, and the invoice is issued mentioning your name and address of Delhi. Now, where is the place of supply? And you consume the medicine there only in Himachal. Where is the place of supply? It shall be Delhi as per clause CA. It is written. So if Delhi person is going and consuming something other than a particular type of services where the place of supply is mandatory, that is services part is more there. But if goods are consumed by the Delhi person outside Delhi also, the Delhi government is gaining the revenue from that. Consumption, the money is of related to Delhi person. Now, if you see the B clause is built to ship to. What does it say? I gave you example of Rajasthan. Rather than sending the goods from Delhi to Rajasthan, the Rajasthan buyer says, I have a customer in UP, you kindly send the goods directly to the UP. Now, in this question, what will be the place of supply? Supplier is in Delhi, his customer is in Rajasthan, Rajasthan's person's customer is in UP, goods has been directly sent from Delhi to UP. What is the place of supply? We will discuss this only, and I think your queries will come in
Will be
our.
Rajasthan.
Yes. Any doubt about it? Why? Because clause B says that where the goods are delivered by the supplier to a recipient or any other person, any other is there, on the direction of a third person is basically the recipient, whether acting as an agent or otherwise before or during the movement of goods, either by way of transfer of documents of the title to the goods or otherwise, it shall be deemed that the said third person has received the goods. Deemed. Third person means the Rajasthan person. What is we are deeming that Rajasthan person has received the goods? Actually, he has not received. Actually, goods has been received by the UP person. But what we are deeming has been received, and the place of such goods
By
shall be the
Rajasthan.
principal place of business of such goods. This is the beauty. Although the goods has been received by the UP person, but we are deeming it to be received by the Rajasthan person. And the place of supply will be Rajasthan. And this chain can be longer. This chain can be longer. And earlier in sales tax regime, we used to say it sale in transit. There was two limits allowed earlier. E1 and E2 forms were there to take care of this situation. But now the chain can be longer than two. But this is a chain where registered persons are involved. Unregistered persons cannot be involved. In case of, you know, if unregistered person gives the direction rather than registered person, the situation changes. And if you see the C clause where the supply does not involve movement of goods, whether by the recipient or recipient, the place of supply shall be the location. What is of such goods at the time of the delivery to the recipient. Now there is no movement how the delivery will be there. I have already given you the example. Goods are already lying with him, but not as a owner, as a lessee or as a tenant or as a user. But once I sell the goods, so that is factually the delivery, the ownership transfers, and in that case, the wherever the goods is already there, that place will be the place of supply. This is, what the section 10, very important, and where the goods are assembled, D, what is the D clause? Or installed at site, the place of supply shall be the place of such installation or assembly. Now you come to another situation, a plant and machinery. The same example B, the Rajasthan, you have a customer, he says you give a machinery and that machinery will be installed at UP customer's place. Now the situation will change. Now the here deeming fiction will not be applicable. The place of supply will be UP, not the Rajasthan. Why? Because it has been assembled or installed at site. When it becomes site, then the place of supply also should. D is more specific, so D will be applicable. B is general clause. Then we come to the E, where the goods are supplied on board or conveyance, including vessel, aircraft, or train or motor vehicle. The place of supply shall be such goods are taken on board. So this example we used to give, like Air India flight is starting from Delhi airport, and the food or the other consumables are on board in Delhi. And this maybe the food may be consumed en route or maybe in Mumbai or maybe somewhere else, but the place of supply will be the place where the goods are taken on board. It means the Delhi will be the place of supply. This is in case of goods. So this is section 10. This is a domestic transaction. And the section 11 is the cross-border transaction. Let's see section 11 also. Very simple section, very small section, nothing more. The place of supply of goods, A, imported into India shall be the location of importer, and exported from India shall be the location outside India. This is what. And I have given you the definition of IGST Act. What is the export of goods? What is the import of goods? This all has been imported from customs. GST law, many provision has been imported from customs. Many provision has been imported from service tax law. Many provision has been taken from central excise and service tax. These all four you already, there is no new law in GST at all. Every law has already existed. But what they have done, they have made a cocktail. So that's why this is new, something new. So export and import I have already defined here. This is, well-tested definitions. It has a deep root meaning. We can understand, we can discuss anytime. But what this section wanted to say that if the goods are exported, it means the place of supply is outside India. Then the place of supply is outside India. Then what should be the tax? Tell me. When there is a outside India, it is a IGST transaction. You need to read section 7 and 8 also of the IGST Act, because I think this time you have not chosen to take that topic, but that topic is also very important. What is interested supply? What is interested? That is the fundamental core principles of the GST law. Relating to the cross-border transaction, it becomes more important. And in case of importer, the place of supply is coming to the location of importer. Now, how do you identify the location of importer? From bill of entry, IEC code. The address is written. Suppose the location of importer is Gujarat. The place of supply goes to Gujarat. And now, when the place of supply is going to the Gujarat, the custom authorities are empowered for what? To collect the IGST under section proviso to section 5(1). Because in case of import of goods, IGST is collected by the custom authorities. It is not RCM basically. It is collected by the custom authority. That is not covered under invoice. That is covered under bill of entry for eligible for input tax credit. I think I tried to, discuss, because if I enter into the services, that will be not be a justification, and you will also not gain anything. That we can do any other time. We close here with,
सर
uh,
एक इशू को डिस्कस कर
yes,
दीजिए
issue we can discuss. If there is any query, you can
दैट
ask.
रिगार्डिंग दैट रेंटिंग ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी. इसमें क्वेरीज काफी आ जाती हैं कि हमें रजिस्ट्रेशन अलग लेना है, आईजीएसटी चार्ज करना है, सीजीएसटी करना है, बिकॉज लैंडलॉर्ड की प्रॉपर्टीज हैं अक्रॉस इंडिया, वेरियस डिफरेंट डिफरेंट स्टेट्स में. एंड
देखो, मैं आपको कॉन्सेप्ट बता
हाँ
देता हूँ और फिर कुछ रह जाएगा तो आप पूछ लेना.
हाँ, बस
द
दैट
कॉन्सेप्ट इज
कंसेप्ट.
वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि वेयर यू विल गेट द रजिस्ट्रेशन, दिस इज द क्वेश्चन, है ना. वेन का हमने क्वेश्चन का आंसर दिया, वेयर इन रेफरेंस टू द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई, बट वेयर विद रेफरेंस टू रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑल्सो. क्योंकि दोनों अलग हैं. शुरू शुरू में जब जीएसटी लॉ आया तो एक नरेटिव चला, और मेरे पास कई बार ये बड़ी क्वेरी आई, मेरे को बड़ी हंसी आती थी. व्हाट वाज द नरेटिव? कि आप जहाँ कहीं भी माल सेल करोगे वहाँ आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ेगा. दिस वाज द नरेटिव इनिशियली. तो रजिस्ट्रेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट वहीं पर है जहाँ पे आपका प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस है और जहाँ से आप कोई आउटवर्ड सप्लाई कर रहे हो. ठीक है ना. अब आपने पूछा कि एक रेजिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी है, आप गुरुग्राम में हैं और आपकी प्रॉपर्टी दिल्ली में है जो आपने रेंट पे दी हुई है. तो आप पहली बात तो सप्लायर ऑफ सर्विस हुए. तो पहले तो ये आपको आइडेंटिफाई करना है आप क्या हो. जब आप सप्लायर ऑफ सर्विस हुए तो फिर आपको देखना है कि आपका पीई कहाँ है, क्योंकि वो डिफाइंड है लॉ में. लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर ऑफ सर्विस इन टर्म्स ऑफ द ह्यूमन और इस्टेब्लिशमेंट परमानेंस परमानेंस एंड ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज वेयर. तो आप कहते हो मेरा तो दिल्ली में कुछ है ही नहीं, न मैं वहाँ बैठता हूँ, न मेरा कोई ऑफिस है, न मेरा कोई एम्प्लॉय है, नथिंग. केवल मैं गुरुग्राम में हूँ, केवल वो मैंने रेंट पे दिया हुआ है और दैट प्रॉपर्टी इज अंडर द पोजीशन ऑफ द टेनेंट. तो आप गुरुग्राम के रजिस्ट्रेशन से भी अपनी आईजीएसटी में लाइबिलिटी को डिस्चार्ज कर सकते हैं. पॉसिबल है, क्योंकि वो उसका प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई दिल्ली ही रहेगा, कोई आप चेंज नहीं कर रहे. बट द ओनली थिंग इज दैट दैट टैक्स विल गो टू दिल्ली बट बाय वे ऑफ आईजीएसटी फ्रॉम गुरुग्राम. अब लेकिन क्या है कि जहां पे अब इमूल प्रॉपर्टी पे आरसीएम भी आ चुका है. जहाँ रेजिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग है वहाँ पे रजिस्टर्ड है यदि रिसिपिएंट तो आरसीएम है। जहाँ पे नॉन रेजिडेंशियल ड्वेलिंग है वहाँ पे यदि सप्लायर रजिस्ट्रेटेड है तो सप्लायर के पास है, यदि सप्लायर नहीं है तो रिसिपिएंट के पास है। लेकिन यदि आरसीएम का केस बनता है तो आपको उसी स्टेट में रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ेगा जहाँ पे प्रॉपर्टी लोकेट है, क्योंकि वहीं का आरसीएम आपको देना पड़ेगा। अंडर आरसीएम यू कैन नॉट पे आईजीएसटी, लाइक बिकॉज रजिस्ट्रेशन में आपको आरसीएम के लिए वहाँ पे रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना ही पड़ेगा। यदि आप दिल्ली में आरसीएम पे करोगे तो आरसीएम में कोई आईजीएसटी का प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई नहीं होता। प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई जहां रजिस्टर्ड है वहीं का ही रहता है। तो ये सिचुएशन है, आप कर सकते हो, लेकिन आपको क्या देखना है कि आपका पी बनता है कि नहीं। मैं दूसरा एग्जांपल देता हूँ। यदि दिल्ली में जो आपकी प्रॉपर्टी है वो मॉल है या कॉमर्शियल इस्टेब्लिशमेंट है जहाँ पे एक एस्टेट मैनेजर भी बैठता है और आप वहाँ पे उसकी हैंडलिंग भी करते हैं। नाउ योर पी इज कमिंग इन दिल्ली, you need to take registration in Delhi. You cannot discharge your liability from Gurugram.
गॉट इट।
Yes.
बिकॉज दिस इज द मोस्ट कॉमन क्वेरी जो कि हमारे ग्रुप में आ
बहुत सारी
जाती है।
कॉमन क्वेरी हैं, लेकिन उनको क्या है, हम अंडरस्टैंड नहीं करते लॉजिक को, लेकिन वो मूव होती रहती है। तो वी नीड टू
राइट
अंडरस्टैंड
राइट।
व्हाट इज बिहाइंड इट, व्हाई इट इज कमिंग अगेन। जैसे एक क्वेरी अभी भी चलती है कि भाई सीजीएसटी का क्रेडिट है तो दिल्ली का क्रेडिट आप हरियाणा में भी ले सकते हो, सीजीएसटी तो एक एक्ट एक ही है। लेकिन मैंने आपको बताया आईजीएसटी भले ही एक्ट एक है, सीजीएसटी तो बात की बात है, आईजीएसटी भी अलग अलग है। आईजीएसटी दिल्ली इज सेपरेट फ्रॉम आईजीएसटी हरियाणा। और आप बताओ कौन सा ऐसा रिटर्न है जहां आईजीएसटी लिखते हो और उसके साथ आपसे स्टेट नहीं पूछता।
सर
आउट
अखिलेश
ऑफ
गर्ग
इंडिया
सर
पूछेगा,
पूछते हैं।
ये प्लेस आउटसाइड इंडिया दैट इज देयर, बट प्लेस तो पूछेगा ही पूछेगा, बिना आईजीएसटी के थोड़ी पूछेगा।
सर अखिलेश जी की क्वेरी है, इफ मोर देन टू पीज,
मोर देन टू,
पीई,
अगर मोर
प्लेस
देन
ऑफ
टू पीई है।
एस्टैब्लिशमेंट।
हाँ अलग अलग स्टेट में है तो आप डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन पर्सन बन जाएंगे, आपको दो रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने पड़ेंगे। एक ही प्लेस में तो आपकी चॉइस है, आप एक रजिस्ट्रेशन लेके दूसरे को एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस में ऐड करा सकते हैं। तो अब ये देखना है आपको कितने स्टेट्स में आपके पी हैं।
अखिलेश सर आई होप आपकी क्वेरी रिजॉल्व हो गई है, अदरवाइज आप अनम्यूट भी कर सकते हैं। सर दो क्वेरीज और हैं हमारे चैट बॉक्स में, शालिनी इफ यू कैन
या,
टेक दोस क्वेरीज।
तो वन ऑफ देम इज टैक्स इनवॉइस is issued to tenant, but if tenant is in the same state, but building is rented outside state. I think this query has already now got answered.
ऑलरेडी
So,
आंसर, ऑलरेडी
yeah,
आंसर।
another
डोमेस्टिक
one is,
ट्रांजैक्शन में कोई इशू नहीं है। कई बार क्या होता है, एक इंटरनेशनल ट्रांजैक्शन भी होते हैं कि प्रॉपर्टी इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी आउटसाइड इंडिया है लेकिन सप्लायर और रेसिपिएंट यहीं है, तो फिर यहीं का टैक्स लगता है। वो अभी सर्विसेज पे हम आए नहीं है, बट आप क्वेरी आंसर हो चुकी है। जब आप सेक्शन
yeah,
12 और 13 पढ़ेंगे तो उसमें कुछ सिल्वर लाइन केसेस हैं, तो दैट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड। जी।
yeah. One more question is there. Billing address is the place of supply. In case of bill to shift model shifted address is place of supply, then how to analyze liability of CGST or SGST or IGST? Prakash, is that question? Is that the question? I think he is.
नो
जब
वरीज, टेक
क्वेश्चन क्लियर
नेक्स्ट
होता है तो
Question is
आधा
not
तो
very clear.
सॉल्यूशन क्लियर हो
Yeah,
जाता है।
yeah. The question is not very clear.
वर्षा, वर्षा जी का क्वेश्चन है अभी लेटेस्ट में आया हुआ,
Yeah,
टेक दैट क्वेश्चन।
yeah. If a person is registered in Delhi and he is paying rent in Haryana, can he take credit for the tax paid in Haryana?
द आंसर इज नो। मैं इतनी बार बार यही बात कह रहा हूँ आपसे। हरियाणा का टैक्स हरियाणा के रजिस्ट्रेशन पे ही ले सकते हैं आप। यू नीड टू
यहाँ पे सर
रजिस्टर इन हरियाणा।
आईपीसी लेने की जो एक होती है ना, इसलिए कि क्या पता शायद मिल जाए कहीं।
हाँ वो तो, नहीं देखिए बहुत सारे, मैं एक बात एज ए
कॉन्सेप्ट
प्रोफेशनल
इज
बता रहा
क्लियर
हूँ,
ना।
क्योंकि हम प्रोफेशनल फ्रेटर्निटी में कई सारे क्लाइंट ऐसे आते हैं जो आपसे छूटते कहते हैं हमें टैक्स नहीं देना, आप बताओ। तो मैं,
राइट।
मेरा तो बड़ा सिंपल कहना है, उन क्लाइंट से आप बच के रहिए जो ये कहते हैं ना
उनके तो
जिनको टैक्स, वो आपकी फीस भी नहीं देंगे। तो आप उन क्लाइंटों को जोड़िए जो कहते हैं जो ड्यू टैक्स है वो देना है, जो ड्यू टैक्स है ज्यादा नहीं, तो
राइट।
ड्यू टैक्स है वो देना है। तो ऐसे बहुत क्लाइंट आते हैं बस ये दिला दो, और हम भी सीए इसी उधेड़पन में लगे रहते हैं कैसे उसका पैसा बचे। तो हमें कोई कमीशन मिल रहा है क्या उसका? टैक्स प्लानिंग इज देयर, बट टैक्स नहीं देना ये कोई एक अच्छा नैरेटिव।
Correct, correct. And
मनोज
one
खत्री जी
last
का है.
question, yeah. Under which Manoj Khatri ji ka hai, under which section PE concept is defined?
It is defined in the definition. It is there in CGST and IGST Act. वो
The
location
place
of
of business,
supplier
sir.
of service and
अच्छा,
location of
location.
recipient of service. This is the
Okay.
name.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and further explanation is also there. It is a very beautiful concept which is there in GST law, but we sometimes forget to understand. For goods, it is not there. But for goods, we have a well-established concept. If there is a query, we can discuss, but it is there. Okay.
Which concept, sir?
The concept is where the goods is located.
Okay.
That is
Location.
inbuilt. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it, got it. Okay, so with this, all queries are answered. शालिनी
Yeah.
कोई रहती तो नहीं है, आपने देख ली?
Nahi, I think more or less, while there were queries, but it got answered while Rohit ji was
Yes.
explaining. So, but
Okay.
still, if there is any query left, we have people, on the
Right.
webinar. They are free to ask if they want to,
Yes, yes.
just in case if anything has got missed.
Thank you,
You can
Akhilesh ji.
unmute and talk.
All
Okay.
queries are answered. Prakash ji, what
Okay,
you are
all right.
asking is a very lengthy topic in itself. What are the disputes experienced in general
You can
related to
send me the
POS?
queries because I have to rush
This is
also.
very
If there is
yes,
any
sir.
doubt, you can
हाँ,
send your queries through mail, Ashali. You
definitely.
can anytime you are welcome. Okay.
All
तो
right. I think,
कल
yeah,
please,
with
हाँ,
with that,
for the
maybe
vote
we
of thanks.
can, wrap up the session and have the vote of thanks. Thanks a lot, Rohit ji, all the participants and the GWCAA association for keeping this course. And thank you so much, Rohit ji, for enlightening us, right, with this content in detail. So
Thank
I
you.
hope
Thank you.
everybody got a good learning. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Time of supply we have learned in detail, I must say. And I know कि time of supply and place of supply अपने आप में बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा topic है. But the
Exactly.
idea was to get कि एक थोड़ा idea लग जाए सबको that you have perfectly given time of supply तो पूरा detail में, and we would definitely want कि future में आपसे हमें दोबारा time मिले to study the place of supply. बिकॉज इतने वर्ड टू वर्ड हमें पढ़ने के लिए ना कोई चाहिए जो हमें पढ़ा दे ठीक से. तो
देखिए
थैंक यू सो मच सर.
इतना बड़ा टॉपिक है कि पहले स्कीमा फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, देन फंडामेंटल लॉ, थर्ड केस में क्रिटिकल केसेस, और उसके बाद जब आगे बढ़ जाते हैं तो इंडस्ट्री बेस्ड केस स्टडीज. दैट इज द लर्निंग प्रोसेस. तब आपको पता, क्योंकि हर इंडस्ट्री के अपने इश्यूज होते हैं और
It's a
Yes.
उनकी
huge,
अपनी केस
huge
स्टडी.
topic. I guess. So thank you so much, sir, and thanks to each of the participants. Please join us tomorrow also for the next session on e-way bill. So with this, we will be closing
This
today's
session.
meeting.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks to
you,
each
Okay.
everyone.
participant.
Have a great rest of the evening.
And thank you for such
Bye.
a good comments in the comment box. संध्या
Yes.
जी, आपकी क्वेरी रह गई है, आप मेरे को व्हाट्सएप कर दीजिएगा जिसकी क्वेरीज रह गई हैं, सो दैट वी कैन गिव इट टू द रोहित सर एंड विल
Yeah.
गेट द आंसर. जिसकी भी क्वेरीज रह गई हैं दे कैन व्हाट्सएप में.
Yeah.
ओके,
All
थैंक यू
right.
सो मच.
Thank you, Asha. Thank you,
थैंक
everyone.
यू
Bye.
शालिनी, थैंक यू.